I'm so happy to be here with you all today. It feels so good to be back on the SwitchPoint stage. My name is Jess Mack, and I'm Senior Director for Advocacy and Communications at Global Health Corps, and we are a leadership accelerator building the next generation of leaders for global health. And I'm realizing that I forgot the clicker. Aha. Improvising. Awesome. Here we go. So I was asked, or let me rather say the gauntlet was thrown at me to give a, quote, energizing and exciting talk on universal healthcare, or UHC. And I know there's really no word that gets people up out of their seats on a Thursday morning and just kind of like hooping and hollering as healthcare. And there's definitely never been a more robust acronym than UHC. So I thought, wonderful. But I do love a challenge, and we do love our acronyms in the health and development sector, don't we? If I were to say to you something like, I'm going to design an RCT to determine how strong PHC can reduce the burden of NCDs and support PMTCT as we're working to achieve UHC and the broader SDGs, how many of you more or less followed me there and knew what I was saying? Be honest. Yeah, see, that is a talent that we should keep hidden. We do ourselves such a disservice by closing away these really interesting and actually quite profound concepts behind strings of dry letters. Why? Because it's efficient, but it's not really driving our movement. And I'm not an expert on health systems or health financing or acronyms for that matter, although I do have a great memory. But I do know something about movements. Movements of people who are themselves moving and emerging and growing and evolving and driving the movement for health equity. And these are some of my people. In Global Health Corps, we're about 1,000 total worldwide, young, engaged leaders. And today I wanted to share a few lessons with you that we're learning in our movement. So first I want you to close your eyes and place your hand on your heart and just take a deep breath. And first, thank yourself for bringing you here. Thank you, body, for getting up this morning, for getting me coffee, for getting me here, and for sitting by my side, for standing with me now. And take a moment, do a quick body scan. How do you feel from your feet all the way up to your head? Are you battling a cold? Do you feel kind of tired or anxious? Maybe you're managing a chronic illness. Maybe you feel awesome or kind of blah. How do you feel? However you feel, that is entirely your own. And to feel good, to feel healthy, is your right. Now open your eyes. That is why we're here. That is the most intimate thing that you share with 7 billion other people. So talking about UHC and PHC and universal healthcare and getting lost in this maze of jargon and acronyms is a little bit like looking at a sunrise through a grimy window. You are looking at a sunrise. You can see it, but the smudges, the smears, it's a little bit difficult to focus. It's not quite as inspiring. What if we lift that window up and we set our gaze upon one of the most profound and visionary and yet to be realized ideas of the 20th century, which is that health is a human right. So the first lesson that we're learning in our movement is to stay focused on this truth, on this radical, beautiful truth. Know it, believe it, say it talk about it a lot, health as a human right. In fact, I want you to say it with me now. Health is a human right. Say it again. Health is a human right. Beautiful. And universal health care is the scaffolding that we are carefully, collaboratively building to get us there, right? Universal health care is this idea that everyone everywhere should have access to health care, and when they get that access, it should be really, really good quality, and they should be able to afford it. And that's a dream, but it's a dream that's within reach. In the advocacy field, we like to talk about moments and momentum and something we call traction. And this is a moment. There's lots of excitement. There are platforms and declarations, and universal health care is getting a lot of attention, and that's all really wonderful. But we can't forget what's at the core of this, right? Which is a single human and her wish to live a healthy and dignified life. And this is a really radical notion, especially here in the US. And I feel like the US gets left out of the conversation around universal health care far too much, and we're here in the United States. I'm an American who has tried and failed sometimes, succeeded other times to access health care here, and you know the same if you've ever lived here or tried to get health care here. It's difficult. We have some of the highest per capita spending in the world for the poorest health outcomes. In fact, last year, 1 in 6 adults in North Carolina couldn't afford to see a doctor. We have the highest rates of maternal mortality among developed countries, and those have been increasing in recent years. And when you look at those rates among Black women and white women, the inequity takes your breath away. So that's an important thing that we need to remember, and especially those of us here in the US, working in the US, we need to say health is a human right. That's a really radical notion here, but we need to say it to remind ourselves that the system is broken, but that it doesn't have to be. So the next lesson that we're learning is that to change a system, you have to first see and understand a system. What does that mean? We have to be systems thinkers. What do I mean by that? Systems thinking is a critical thinking approach. It's this idea that you can see the individual parts and their relationship between each other in order to better understand the whole. Or for example, you see a tree and you see a smaller tree and you see a sapling growing out of it, and you see the moss and you see another tree, and then you really get the forest for the trees. This maybe seems like a complex or jargony concept, but it's actually quite intuitive. And Dr. Dana Meadows, who is really the godmother of systems thinking, she was an MIT biophysicist, talked about it as part of our traditional wisdom. And it's so intuitive because we are systems. We are complex systems. She talked about our bodies as magnificent, integrated, self-maintaining complex systems, and every body and tree that you come in contact with is too. So when you step back and you really allow yourself to take in the totality and the complexity of the system, wow, you can finally function more effectively within it. And you also get why diversity is such an asset. The health challenges that we're up against are incredibly complex, and we absolutely need a wide range of skill sets, of perspectives, of approaches, and of voices. We won't get there without that. So that requires of each one of us to really think and act outside of our issue area and even further outside of our health field. Now, I know this won't be easy because, let's be honest, this isn't the way historically we've been funded or measured or programmed. So that's an actual real shift that we need to talk about and get serious about making. But the world is only getting more connected, and these challenges are only getting more complex. So the moment to enact that shift is now. Systems thinking is a key part of our leadership curriculum for this very reason. And I can tell you firsthand, the next generation of health leaders is already there. They don't need to make this shift. They get it. It's us who are behind them. They're thinking in terms of systems, and our community is representing such a diversity of perspectives and voices, and that's really important. The diversity of our community, in fact, is its greatest strength. We have worked really hard over the last decade to build the most diverse talent pipeline in global health because the challenges require it. Our community of almost 1,000 is 65% women, representing 40 countries, almost half from the African continent, and many, many sectors and skill sets beyond that. There are Rwandan architects who are redesigning airflow in hospital clinics. There's Zambian entomologists who are now working to eradicate malaria. There are American bankers who are now overseeing operations for Ebola relief. And they're all 30 and under, and they're committed to doing this long-haul work for their entire careers. So the final lesson that I want to share with you that we're learning is to stay hopeful and to keep going. Rebecca Solnit talks about hope as an act of defiance. And I stay hopeful because I choose to. And let's be honest, this work is a slog sometimes, and there are many days that are dark, and we're working on something so immense, so complex, so much bigger than ourselves that we don't know if and when we'll ever get there. And I know deep down that this work will outlive me, and it will outlive every single one of you, and yet I have to wake up every day and feel inspired to give it everything and to keep going. And I'm hopeful because of the community of young people that I get to work alongside. And I'm talking about Arash and Temi and Andrea and Assumpta. Earlier this year, there was a cholera outbreak in Malawi. It started in Karunga and it spread through different parts of the country, including into Salima, where we were planning to have a leadership summit. We were bringing together 60 alumni from Malawi and Zambia. We had to cancel that because at times of cholera outbreaks, having lots of people in close proximity is very dangerous. And it was really disappointing, but what was incredible was what our alumni did instead. The very next week they organized and they connected with community leaders in Salima, and they coordinated a full day of community education and awareness on cholera prevention. And it's kind of a simple thing maybe, but it's this kind of resilience and this kind of nimble creativity that is inspiring to me and also keeps me hopeful. So there are many, many reasons for us to stay hopeful, and many of them are in the audience today. But sometimes you have to step back and provide a little space to really allow yourself to see it. And when you do, you open yourself up to new collaborations and new perspectives and new ways of working, and you can make so many profound shifts. The Alma Ata Declaration is celebrating a big birthday later this year, and this was an important aspect of the universal healthcare movement, and said that, really galvanized this movement of everybody needs healthcare and we're going to do it. Anyway, it's celebrating this big birthday, but it's only 5 years older than me, and I'd like to think that I'm still pretty young. So what I mean to say is that movements take time, and they take many, many voices. But I know for sure that our old way of working has not brought us to where we need to be, because we wouldn't be here otherwise. So it's a moment to enact that shift, and that starts with each one of us. So reject acronyms, say what you mean what you say. Ask yourself, how do you feel, to help yourself remember why you're here, and connect with other people to help them remember too. Say the words, health is a human right. That was terrible. Again, health is a human right. One more time. Health is a human right. And step back and let yourself take in the magical complexity of the system before you dive in. And don't you lose hope, because we're all counting on you. So let's keep going. Thank you.